The Devil's Tramping Ground, also known as the Chatham County Vortex, is a barren patch of woods in North Carolina, was the site of a battle between two rival tribes of American Indians. Supposedly, the blood of those killed soaked the ground so thoroughly that nothing would ever grow there again. Welcome to my channel, Enlightenment in the Darkness. After the battle, the losing tribe then fled from the mainland entirely onto the Outer Banks and became the Croatan tribe that befriended the lost colonists. Others say that the site is the burial ground of a great Indian chief named Croatan, and that the gods keep the spot barren out of respect. Devil's Tramping Ground, a wooded section of Chatham County, North Carolina. A 40-foot in diameter circle can be found there. Any objects that appear in the circle will mysteriously disappear or get moved from within the circle. No wildlife, vegetation, or inanimate objects can be found in the circle known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. This phenomenon was first discovered in the early 1800s, and it is believed that Satan paces around this circle and ponders about ways to undo mankind. The idea has also been put forth that the soil in the Devil's Tramping Ground is barren, because the circle was the site of a UFO landing, and the strange radiation from its extraterrestrial engines has permanently extinguished. Most recently, a sign was posted at the site renaming the Devil's Tramping Ground as the Chatham County Vortex, and claiming that the site is the anchor of a Magdalene crystal column of energy. Magdalene energy is an idea that has emerged out of England in the past decade. This theory proposes that the planet is surrounded by a web of divine mare energy that is an expression of a divine feminine presence. Bundling this idea with earlier English traditions of Jesus traveling to the British Isles at some point in his life, while also incorporating this into a mysticism based on Jungian psychology and feminist readings of Arthurian legend. So there's a lot going on there, but what might be most interesting for the history of the Devil's Tramping Ground in all of this is that for the first time the spot is being associated with positive supernatural forces instead of negative ones. This sort of ray reading is one of the things that makes the Devil's Tramping Ground such an interesting spot. It's an example of how, once a place is identified as being supernatural or holy, that identification can persist even beyond the culture that created the original association. The idea of the sacred place persists, even as what that sacredness means is reinterpreted as new cultures and new contexts move into the area. The original naming of the Devil's Tramping Ground is part of a deep American folk tradition. The devil seems to have come to Chatham County with the Scotch-Irish settlers who arrived in North Carolina during the 18th century, populating the course of the Cape Fear River, the Uharies, and the Appalachians. The settlers were mainly immigrants from Ulster and the counties along the border between England and Scotland, and the devil was very much part of the culture they brought along with them. Obsession with the supernatural had been running at a peak in parts of the United Kingdom for a long time, even before the bulk of Scotch-Irish emigration to the New World. Scottish-born James I, who ascended to the unified throne of England and Scotland in 1603, was obsessed with witches and demons and even wrote a book on demonology. Knowing a crowd pleaser when he saw it, and knowing who was the right crowd to please, William Shakespeare is said to have written the supernatural elements into Macbeth with an eye towards the superstitious king. Belief in witches, Ghosts and goblins was a genuine cultural fixation, and this demon-haunted world came with those settlers to America. Much of Southern American folklore and folk music owes its shape to the Scotch-Irish, and the devil was a central part of that story. The culture remains with us also in our place names. For the Scotch-Irish, any strange or dangerous place would often be named for the devil. These names are all over North Carolina. Apart from the Devil's Tramping Ground, North Carolina has a Devil's Rock, a Devil's Courthouse, 7 Devils, Kill Devil Hills, Devil's Branch, Devil's Chimney, Devil's Nest, 4 Devil's Elbows, 2 Devil's Forks, a Devil's Knob, even the Devil's Tatter Patch. For whatever reason, this small barren patch in the woods was at some point identified as being in some way supernatural, and as the cultural context around the spot has shifted, that idea has persisted even as the stories around it have changed. In the Scotch-Irish tradition that originally named the spot, the devil is a complicated character who is seen as often as a comic figure as he is as an existential threat to human existence. There are numerous stories of the devil being outsmarted by mortals who trick him into using his powers against himself. The 20th century, the threat of uncontrollable forces that could completely disrupt someone's life shifted as the cultural context through which life was experienced shifted. The threat went from being demons to being aliens. The unseen forces changed from magic to radiation. Through it all, the mystical spot in the woods of Chatham County remained. Whether or not the latest incarnation of the Devil's Tramping Ground as a source of Magdalene crystal energy will persist, and whether the culture has shifted enough so that once feared ideas of supernatural forces are now embraced, remains to be seen. So what are your thoughts about the Devil's Tramping Ground? Please feel free to comment your thoughts below. I would like to thank you for joining me here today on my channel, Enlightenment in the Darkness. Please like and subscribe to my content. Many blessings to the rest of your day.